tonight. The national emergency sending markets into free fall and halting trading as the global pandemic hits home.
In Italy, the death rate doubles.
We want people to keep things in context.
And new guidelines, health officials limiting gatherings. Plus,
the present system cannot handle the surge that is likely to come.
Debate in the time of coronavirus. Bernie and Biden go head-to-head without an audience. And a national day of prayer.
For he is my refuge.
As Americans forced apart, worship together. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Economic free fall. The president acknowledging the U.S. may be heading for a recession. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm Jenna Browder.
And I'm Eric Phillips. Now, tonight, Americans are hunkering down as the nation battles what the president is calling a, quote, invisible enemy.
Now, President Trump urging people to stay calm as health officials issue new guidelines. Gatherings now limited to 10 people for the next 8 weeks.
We've made the decision to further toughen the guidelines and blunt the infection now. We'd much rather be ahead of the curve than behind it, and that's what we are. Therefore, my administration is recommending that all Americans, including the young and healthy, work to engage in schooling from home when possible, avoid gathering in groups of more than 10 people, avoid discretionary travel, and avoid eating and drinking at bars, restaurants, and public food courts. If everyone makes this change or these critical changes and sacrifices now, we will rally together as one nation, and we will defeat the virus, and we're going to have a big celebration all together. With several weeks of focused action, we can turn the corner and turn it quickly. A lot of progress has been made. I'm also pleased to report today that a vaccine candidate has begun the phase 1 clinical trial. This is one of the fastest vaccine development launches in history, not even close. We're also racing to develop antiviral therapies and other treatments, and we've had some promising results, early results, but promising, to reduce the severity and the duration of the symptoms. And I have to say that our government is prepared to do whatever it takes we're doing.
And tonight, precautionary measures are growing by the hour.
Today, for the third time in 3 weeks, Wall Street abruptly stopped trading. That's despite the best efforts of the Fed to give the economy a shot in the arm.
As soon as markets opened Monday, stocks plunged, tripping a circuit breaker of sorts, designed to halt trading in times like this for 15 minutes, giving investors a moment to breathe. It followed the Fed lowering interest rates by a full point Sunday, a move praised by the president.
So it's 0 to 0.25. That's a big difference. It's quite a bit, about a point. And in addition, very importantly, the Federal Reserve is going to be purchasing $500 billion of treasuries and $200 billion of mortgage-backed securities.
But the benefits of that were not immediately felt, and markets around the globe followed suit. Meanwhile, the virus is growing. New precautions introduced in the U.S. The CDC urging the public to shy away from gatherings of 50 people or more for 8 weeks. The governors of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut working together to take that a step further. As of 8 p.m. Monday, all restaurants and bars in those states will close, offering takeout only. Movie theaters, casinos, gyms, and the like will also close until further notice. Maryland and other states have taken similar steps. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo critical of how the federal government is handling this.
It's chaos. I think it actually feeds the feeling that the country's out of control. And there is no clear direction, and there is no clear path. California's doing this, New York is doing this, Illinois is doing this. It's the same problem across the country. If the federal government isn't going to do what it should do, then the states have to try their best. right?
Many religious services over the weekend were canceled. Schools and colleges coast to coast are shut down. The Supreme Court announced Monday it will postpone arguments for late March and April because of the coronavirus. 6 of the 9 justices are 65 and older, making them high risk. And at the White House, new measures to protect the president and his staff, including taking the temperature of anyone who enters the complex. The Pope offered prayers Monday from the Vatican for families who are quarantined in hard-hit Italy and around the world. NBA player Donovan Mitchell offered words of warning. He's now in isolation after testing positive for COVID-19.
I'm asymptomatic. I don't have any symptoms. I could walk down the street if it wasn't public knowledge that I was sick, you wouldn't know it, and I think that's the scariest part about this virus is that, you may seem fine, be fine, and you never know who you may be talking to, who they're going home to.
It is scary indeed. New York City schools closed today, and Mayor Bill de Blasio said they may not reopen for the rest of the school year. The governor of Ohio said the same of public schools there. And with the U.S. battling to contain the coronavirus outbreak, there are reports of a cyber attack at the Department of Health and Human Services over the weekend. The attack was reportedly aimed at slowing down the department's computers, but did not have any meaningful impact.
And here now for more on the stock market free fall is Joel Griffith, research fellow with the Heritage Foundation. Joel, good to have you. I'm sure it was a very busy day for you, I'm sure. So you were with us, Joel, last Monday when we saw the stock market circuit breaker trigger, halting trading on Wall Street. That was the first time in a decade that had happened. Today, it happened again. Is this directly related to the coronavirus?
There's a lot of economic uncertainty still, of course, related to this. We don't know exactly how pervasive it will be, and we don't yet have an idea of how big an impact it'll have on the economy this quarter, next quarter. I think a lot of us intuitively are seeing those results. A lot of us in our cities or in our states are seeing bars and restaurants and gyms out of precaution being shut down temporarily. And that, even if that's necessary to protect us, that is still going to have an impact on our economy because it is very reliant on those sectors.
Well, Joel, the big drop came today after the Fed cut interest rates to almost zero. Now, was that the right call, or did it cause more anxiety in the markets?
Well, one of the primary purposes of the Federal Reserve is to provide credit liquidity in the marketplace, meaning to ensure that there's ample credit to businesses and consumers that are demanding it. And what the Federal Reserve did over the weekend was lower the amount of interest that it pays to banks to keep reserves on hand at the Fed. And that's an incentive to kind of push those banks into making those loans to consumers. And this is a proper role for the Federal Reserve. But even if these actions were right, the fact is it doesn't completely mitigate the situation we're in, because it's not just the fact that consumers or businesses, maybe they can't get access to credit. The problem is we have this virus and we're trying to counter it. And in many instances, people cannot go out, or they don't want to go out, or the government is out of precaution shutting down those businesses. So simply lowering the interest rates, although that might be prudent to keep credit flowing, that's not enough to mitigate and to undo this economic damage. And that's where we really need to see that focus from the government, state and local governments on containing this virus. And for us as the public, do social distancing where appropriate, act with precaution, don't panic, but utilize proper precaution. If we do these things, we'll be able to resume our normal lifestyle in the coming months.
A multi-dimensional problem.
Yeah. All right, Joel Griffith with the Heritage Foundation. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, meanwhile, more drive-through testing for COVID-19 at hospitals across America. Paul Gadden with Sentara Princess Anne Hospitals in Virginia Beach, Virginia, is encouraging people to remain calm. He says America's hospitals are prepared to take care of those at high risk, like the elderly or those who have immune systems that are compromised.
Albeit I said that there is not a treatment for COVID-19. It is other comorbidities that actually are what becomes dangerous for those patients. And we're well equipped to care for those patients. For those that are younger, that contract COVID-19, they're going to be fine, and they'll be able to manage and get on an amend after 14 to 16 days.
And Gadden says the virus is more contagious, so testing like this is important. Patients go through a verbal triage first. They are asked if they have symptoms like shortness of breath, cough, and a fever above 100.4, or have traveled internationally or here in the U.S. where there are outbreaks. They will be tested and should self-quarantine. And for more now on where things stand legislatively, we want to bring in our Capitol Hill correspondent, Abigail Robertson. Abigail?
Well, Jenna, early Saturday morning, the House passed their coronavirus package that they worked on with the White House, which calls for things like free testing, paid sick leave, and food assistance for low-income families. Now, this bill is headed to the Senate, who will vote on it this week, but the question remains when we might see that vote take place. They could take it up tonight, or it might happen later in the week. It's unclear right now. And originally, the Senate was supposed to be in recess this week, but they have decided to come back because this is a top priority. They really want to get this coronavirus package passed.
Yeah, and Abby, speaking of that, with all these warnings going around about staying at home, is it really wise for senators to be traveling back to D.C.?
Eric, that is a great question. I believe about a third of the Senate is in that high-risk age category. So there has been a lot of concern expressed about having them travel during this pandemic. Many of them are going through airports. And Democratic Senator Dick Durbin, he even put out a strong statement yesterday urging the Senate to pass this bill by unanimous consent tonight, which would only require 2 senators to be there in person. Now, in his statement, he said it makes no sense following the president's emergency declaration to have senators take unnecessary flights, potentially exposing themselves and others to this virus, and that the Senate should set an example for America by having them stay home. Now, there's bipartisan support for this, but since some Republican senators have already expressed a few concerns that they want to address in the House bill, it's unlikely it will happen. And Leader McConnell also said yesterday that after they get this House coronavirus bill passed, which he believes will have strong bipartisan support, he wants the Senate to immediately get to work on a third coronavirus relief package to help the economy.
All right, Abigail Robertson, thank you very much.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug-of-war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline, Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Well, no live audience and podiums set 6 feet apart. The coronavirus pandemic muting last night's showdown between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders.
Former Vice President Joe Biden is committing to picking a woman for his running mate in the race for the White House, but that line and others drew no applause in an empty Washington, D.C. studio where coronavirus was front and center.
basically is undermining the doctors and the scientists who are trying to help the American people. It is unacceptable for him to be blabbering with unfactual information, which is confusing the general public.
The present system cannot handle the surge that is likely to come. So we should already be sitting down and planning where we're going to put these temporary hospitals.
Here now for our Faith Nation panel, CBN News Chief Political Analyst David Brody. Thank you so much. Always great to have you.
Good to see you guys.
So who handled the issue of coronavirus better between those two last night?
Well, they both did a good job. This was in Biden's wheelhouse. I mean, you know, he looked presidential. He said certain things that were very presidential. For example, he looked like he had a whole command of how the U.S. federal government works, including the Pentagon. In other words, these tent cities that he talked about, you know, these makeshift tent cities, and you could provide beds and many other supplies. So I thought he really seemed like he had a full, broader command of what the federal government can do, because he's been in the federal government forever.
David, you know, I noticed that there was really very little mention of the economy. Obviously, the coronavirus taking a huge toll on our economy.
Yeah, actually, that might have been a good thing for both candidates, since the economy, well, at least was humming along pretty well for the president. And so, but it was very strange that it was. Now, you may want to give them the benefit of the doubt, that is CNN, the benefit of the doubt, because of the coronavirus. It took up a lot of time, but still, could you get to the economy? I mean, it shouldn't be that hard. But it's interesting. There'll be folks that are the anti-CNN crowd out there will say, well, of course you didn't bring up the economy, because it is going very well. And what are they going to say? But clearly they needed to bring it up. You're right. It was a glaring weakness in that coverage.
Yeah, considering that's always a centerpiece of conversation in situations like these.
That's right.
Georgia has joined Louisiana and moving its primary date, but some other states are still holding on to tomorrow's date, including Illinois, which has shut down its bars and restaurants. What do you make of that?
Well, I don't even know where to begin. First of all, Ohio may move its primary as well, and the governor is trying to get the primary moved. And even in Illinois and Florida, they're telling folks that if you're going to come to the polls, we're going to have hand sanitizer there. They're going to do some curbside voting, so you don't have to go into a gymnasium. This is going to be interesting. Who does it benefit the most? I got to tell you, I think it benefits Bernie, actually. Look, Joe Biden's voters are typically over 60. They're told to stay inside. I want to see what the voting shows tomorrow. Also, the younger folks who, you know, they'll do anything, you know, those Gen Zers and millennials, they'll go out. Well, those are the Bernie folks, and they are the more passionate ones. So in a coronavirus situation, passionate and younger wins, and that's what Bernie has on his side. I wouldn't be surprised if Bernie gets closer than normally he would, especially in Florida. You know,
David, this is just hitting so hard for so many Americans. I know you took the Metro to work this morning, and that was an interesting experience, huh?
You did? Yeah. Well, yeah, on my Metro car, I had a woman dry coughing the whole time. I know, the whole time. So, as you might imagine,
come on.
I know, I made my way to another car quickly. But look, I mean, this is the state of where we're at today. And when I first came in, before she got on, there was nobody on the car. So there was plenty of social distancing. I did find toilet paper over the weekend, so that's good news. At Big Lots, by the way, that's my tip to you today, my Faith Nation audience. Big Lots, 2 rolls or 2 packages per customer.
Maybe never even considered Big Lots, but now you know.
I didn't think it either. I was going to, well, anyhow.
News you can use.
That's
all right, David Brody, thank you.
Very much.
Coming up, Americans kept apart physically come together spiritually in a national day of prayer at the face of a national emergency. Next, you're watching Faith Nation.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
And ministering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Welcome back. Well, President Trump didn't just proclaim yesterday a national day of prayer against the coronavirus.
Now, he also said in a tweet he'd be watching Free Chapel's Sunday service out of Gainesville, Georgia. So Pastor Jensen Franklin may have been preaching to an empty church like so many others this past Sunday, but suddenly he had a national audience. He preached a couple of times, once while still wearing the saxophone he'd just played with Free Chapel's worship band, and he read the president's proclamation.
As we come to our Father in prayer, we remember the words found in Psalms 91. For he is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in him will I trust. And we unite in prayer. We are reminded that there is no burden too heavy for God to lift or for this country to bear with his help. Luke 1:37 promises, I tell you, I believe the president's going to preach a better message than I am today. Luke 1:37 promises that for with God nothing shall be impossible. And those words are just as true today as they have ever been. You know, the most often given commandment in the Bible is fear not. Isn't that something? Fear not. And it's always coupled with the most often given promise, for I am with you. Fear not is mentioned 366 times in the Bible. That's a fear not for every day you get up and you turn the TV on, or somebody sneezes at work, or somebody coughs. Fear not. I've got a fear not every day I get up. A fear not. Goodness and mercy are waiting at the foot of my bed. Fear not. Don't let worry make you go into just panic. Jesus said, I am with you in your home. I am where you are. I know your address. I know all about you. I have not forgotten about you. I am with you. No matter what comes our way, our first reaction should be faith that overcomes the fear. Choose faith over fear. Choose faith over panic and over being petrified and crying. It's much ado about nothing when you stack it up and compare it to the healing, miraculous, powerful God that we serve. Well, what about this virus? We will survive. We're more than conquerors through Christ. No weapon formed against us will prosper. And then he said that nothing can separate us from the love of God.
And that was Jensen Franklin in Gainesville, Georgia. Joining us now, senior Washington correspondent Paul Strand. Paul, you watched it all. What did you think?
I thought it was wonderful. And you know what was strange about this is you think about we're in this strange time right now where maybe the internet is feeding our fears and everybody can read the internet and see all the scary things that are going on. But the internet has also allowed us, for the first time in human history, where we can all come together for a church service. And I mean, President Trump was, I thought, brilliant to suggest people do this because so many people, they weren't going to be going to their churches this Sunday. Many churches weren't even being held. And so here we were gathered. You know, I don't know how many there were, but the president has over 50 million people that read his tweets. So here we are all gathered just at, you know, almost like at a national altar. And the pastor, he did not shy away from his Christianity. He gave an altar call. He talked about Jesus, that this is the time that you need to go to him. So it really, you know, it was just a clarion call to the country, and I think it was very necessary at this time.
Did you really get the sense that you were a part of something that was large yet very personal at the same time?
Yeah, it was kind of interesting because all these people, there was no audience, so it was kind of very quiet on the stage. But you know, I think they really knew what was that they had been called to a national moment like this, And so they concentrated on that, and it was like every word, every song that the worship team had, it all just ministered, and it all dealt with this idea that get rid of your panic, you know, replace fear with faith. And so it was, like I said, it was wonderful. My wife and I were sitting there watching it, tears were flowing down our face. And the last song, they came to this worship song where they just talked about the Lord. He's in front of you, He's behind you, He's all around you, and may you be blessed. They gave us a national blessing. They said, for you, your family, to 1,000 generations.
All right, Paul Strand, we got to leave it there. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll be right back.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Finally tonight, neighborhoods all over Italy are on lockdown following a surge in coronavirus cases, but that has not stopped them from singing.
That is right. Thousands of Italians are finding new ways to keep up their spirits, venturing out onto their balconies and breaking out into song. And they're getting out the word on social media, calling people to join in while still practicing, of course, that social distancing. You know, a bright glimmer for all of us as we kind of hunker down in the time of this coronavirus.
It absolutely is. You know, sometimes singing a song can make all the difference.
Yeah, all right. Well, that does it for tonight.
We'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a great one.